Honorable Professor Odoul.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I would want to also commend and agree with the petition that has been brought forward by the MP. Honorable Speaker, leadership, as is clearly reflected, is what we need when there are challenges and when we need to have solutions.
Thank you so much, Ivy, and it's an honor to be here on the Lawmakers Show. I am a nominated member of Parliament by the Orange Democratic Party, Professor Jacquiline Odoul, and I have had the pleasure to be part of the 12th Parliament, where a number of issues that were keen and critical to my heart, dealing particularly with vulnerable groups, with those who are voiceless and who do not get representation or do not feel like they get it, like widows, orphans, boy children who now feel lost out because we are talking so much about the girl child. So I am happy to be in Parliament because I know that even as a nominated member, I have had a chance to legislate, to participate in debate, and truly to just learn from all the other members how then to package myself for the next level. Just the realization that politics is really how you get the right to be heard. Because it is in politics when you offer your candidature and you get in and fight and you are then elected among others that you can sit at the table of making decisions. In having engaged a lot on issues that relate to leadership, governance, but particularly looking at the manner that a number of women tended to just be cheerleaders or to sort of position or angle themselves to be nominated, I realized that the only way was to go full throttle and engage in the political party and become someone whose voice was in fact chartering the course of the political party. I'm happy to report that I am the founder chair of the Orange Democratic Party that was modeled after the ANC. So I got into politics, one, because politics is really where you get to sit to make decisions, who gets what money, who is affected where do you get your child to go to school. And secondly, because I was aware that a lot of the women who went before me, like Grace Onyango, like Grace Ogot, like Phoebe Sio, and a number who are in politics needed to get in there and just demonstrate that they can deliver. I ran in 2007, and I must say that I was a candidate among 17 men. I did give a great show. I would like to go by the feedback that I get. And getting nominated to me was a good thing. I welcomed it, but I must admit that it sort of gave me the feeling that I would have liked to be in Parliament as the elected member, which was what my goal was in 2007. And so I thanked the party and got on board to ensure that I used the platform. And my experience has been to ensure that I participate actively in all angles in legislation. I have brought in some amendments, particularly in areas that are dear to me, like gender responsive budgeting, looking at how to amend the PFM Act. And I have used the sessions on the floor, particularly on statements, to seek to hold the executive respective ministries accountable, protection of the children, protection of the family, ensuring that we have a bill in place for human trafficking, and really just enhancing overall protection. I want to say that my experience has been one that is very rewarding, because short of the authority or mandate to represent the people of Alego Usonga, as I had sought in 2007, I have found that on the floor of the House, I really can exercise whatever legislative mandate in the committee of the whole House, and I have also managed even to participate in the interparliamentary union activities. I want to say that it is important for us to understand that gender issues really are issues that come from the mindset, and they're things that people have convictions about. They don't even need facts, because everybody knows that politics and leadership has nothing to do with gender. It has a lot to do with conviction, with passion, with courage, and with just the ability to persuade others to take your role. And so my take on the 2/3 gender rule is that we put too much premium on legislation, because you can legislate against exclusion, as we've done with the 2/3 gender rule. You can say that we will not have more than this, meaning that we would like to ensure that we don't stop women from running, but you cannot legislate inclusion. And so we find that despite the law, we still had to get, I'm sorry to say, from my gender expertise perspective, ridiculous strategies like colleague members of parliament who are female, dining and wining male colleague members. That truly brings the dimension of that leadership and the recognition that leadership is gender neutral in a very bad light. And so my take is that we failed to enact the 2/3 gender rule because legislation had gone as far as it could. And now as we approach the August 9th elections, we're going to get that gender legislation by having women include themselves. Women are getting into political parties, women are identifying seats, women are going to fight, women are going to run, and I really want to perhaps politely remind the men that after August, it might be that the gender 2/3 might not be for women, but maybe for men. I think one of the things I'll say is that in the 12th Parliament in particular, the greatest culture shock was coming in on the heel of the disputed results and the political party then becoming so the line of identification and not so much being a parliamentarian dealing with all this legislation. And I had that introduction throw me off balance a little bit because I had expected that I would be enjoined in this rich debate where we would have members articulating what it is that would be the positions that they would want to pull in line with their political party ideologies. And then I also found it quickly registering that on the floor of the House, we needed to get to know what mechanisms that you could use. And it is clear that you could use questions, you can use statements, but that you also just need to be abreast with what is on the order paper. So I have enjoyed being in Parliament, and I might say the only challenge, which is also useful because it kept my dream alive, was that being a nominated member at times would not give you as much premium as if you are elected. But I must say that I enjoyed the opportunity and I have thoroughly really participated to the extent that I could to make a difference. I think I would definitely look at how I have participated in the committee of the whole House. I did not get to see just the significance of being part of the final determination that a law now is going to be accepted and is moving to the point where it will now be what will be used to legislate. And I would also say that I have found that participating in committees has been useful, because as a member of the sports committee, I know that through our committee we were able to address particularly the manner in which at times when we were appearing in international competitions, we would find that our sportsmen and women would not be given the attention or the kind of treatment that would be required in a timely manner. So I want to say that one of the areas I've enjoyed most was using statements and questions to focus on areas that touch on vulnerable groups and also task or challenge the executive with regards to policy or implementing what is already legislated. And this is where I can point looking at the protection of the family, because Article 45 clearly indicates that the state should protect the family as a unit. And I was of the view that we tended to fragment the family. You know, you bring the children on this end, persons with disability, youth, and therefore our family was really under threat. So this is what I feel I would consider. I would say that the greatest challenge is what I can call the gender trap, because politics and leadership is gender neutral. And voters, by the way, when we look at statistics, the number of women who present themselves and the number of men, usually the elections is actually proportionate to the number who offered. So the trap, the gender trap for women is that politics is perceived, particularly the single seat, constituency seats, is perceived to be the male domain. And the younger you are, the more difficult it is considered to be. So I would say that the challenge that young women and youth need to take up is just to remember that politics is really about determining a seat, understanding those that are in that seat, understanding your political party or whether you want to be an independent, and then going for it. Another challenge is violence, because closely related to the feeling that it is men who should be in these seats is the youth and how the youth can be used to intimidate the women. But I want to say that when women are prepared and they know what to say and they know how to also link up with the constituents, and they themselves engage the youth and show the youth the benefit that their candidature brings, then this can be handled. I want to talk about the budget, and I want to particularly indicate that when we are looking at the PMF Act, it is extremely important that we ensure that budgeting is by law and contextualized on the manner in which women and men experience its implementation in different sectors differently. To this end, in fact, I had introduced an amendment to the PFM Act so that we would be able to ensure that there is not only by legislation and amendment, but implementation that would require that right at the onset of budgeting, there is recognition and a lens of looking at women and men interests, looking at the youth and persons with disability, and ensuring that there will be no way that budget is going to be used in any area without remembering that these areas are affected. I think for me that is one area that I am very, very keen that we would need to look at. And I also want to say a second one is how we would want to promote indigenous language, indigenous knowledge, and just encourage our younger crop to recognize that language is a vehicle of identity, cultural identity, and it opens doors. And to ensure that we don't just tell our children about rights without telling them about responsibilities. I think we want to make sure that our children grow to responsible adults, and I think I would like us to manage and balance the legislation on rights with also the expectation of policy and implementation frameworks that teaches responsibility, especially children and youth. They become responsible. I love dancing, and I also like singing. I think in my other life I've been told I could have sung, and I do indeed enjoying doing this, especially with younger groups. I think when I'm not engaged in politics, I would be with young people, sometimes as young as kindergarten, singing songs, you know, saying, this is the day the Lord has made, and we're jumping, and also just discussing and getting to understand their perspective or their worldview. So I would say that away from politics, I really enjoy just the interaction with the children, interaction with the youth. And I must say also, because of my interest in culture and in just defending, understanding, and adapting culture to the modern life, I like to engage with the youth as well as the elders. So if I'm not with the youth or with the children, I would be with the elders, taking them to task, for example, about trying to keep us from politics, when we know all along that men never made decisions without going back home to figure out what the men thought. So that's what I do away from politics. I want to say that 2022 is a critical year, and as we wrap up the 12th Parliament and get ready for the 13th Parliament, I am confident that we will indeed engage in our respective constituencies with clear agendas. I know that as I go to Alego Usonga, which is a constituency where I ran in 2007, I'm looking forward to a very, very interactive engagement with the people of Alego Usonga, and I call on each and every member who is running and any other candidate that we need to just pull together, maintain peace, tell people our agenda, and ensure that the elections will be as peaceful, as productive as they can be.